Hello again, and welcome back to Talking Truth Ministry, where my goal is to share the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the best of my ability. I'm going to continue my Search for Truth Bible study. We're into the beginning of the nations and languages, also known as the dispersal at Babel. So we read Genesis 9 or Genesis 11, verses 1 through 9, which I'll read right now. It says, now the whole earth, and I'm reading from the English Standard Version, the whole earth had one language and the same words. And as people migrated from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. And they said one to another, come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly. And they made bricks for stone and bitumen for mortar. Then they said, come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of man had built. And the Lord said, behold, they are one people, and they have all one language. And this is only the beginning of what they will do. And nothing that they propose to do now will be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and there confuse their language so that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord dispersed them from there over the face of all the earth, and they left off building the city. Therefore, its name was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth, and from there the Lord dispersed them over the face of all the earth. So we have here this plan by man at this time. It's believed that this was the idea of Nimrod to gather everybody together, even though the Lord had previously told them he wanted them to spread out and replenish the earth. But they all gathered in one place and devised this plan to build this tower into the heavens. So the genealogy of Noah from that point was, and I didn't know this till I found this graphic, but China was an offspring of Noah himself, probably through maybe another wife or something. I don't know, but that's where we get, looks like the Chinese came from. Maybe that's why they seem to, even modern day China, they just seem to want to be isolated from everybody. Now they want to take over the world. But from Shem, we have the Asia, those from Asia, Arphaxids, Shelah, Eber, Peleg, Reu, Serug, Nahor, Terah, who had Abraham, Nahor, Haran, who had Lot. And if you read the book, if you ever get the chance to read the book of Jasher, it gives a lot of interesting information about Terah and his family. From Japheth, we get those that migrated to Europe. Gomer, Madai, Magog, Tubal, Javan, Meshech, and Tyrus. And then we got from Ham those who migrated to Africa. Cush, who had Nimrod, and Put, and then you got Canaan. This is all basically the first couple generations, except for Shem's, listed after the flood. Now, if you go back, Babel explains why there's so many different languages and so many different people groups today. You have to believe that all the genetic material for every different ethnicity was contained within Noah and his family. And as these families probably separated and as God changed their languages, he made it so all the people that looked alike stayed together and spoke the same language, I'm guessing. but it can be, the DNA still tracks back to Noah and ultimately back to Adam and Eve. So this Tower of Babel, let's talk about this. The mythology and the great coming deception. Believe it or not, the Tower of Babel was built in a valley. So a lot of people believe that they built the tower in case there was another flood, but you would think that they would build it a little higher than in a valley. Now here's a ziggurat, or a tower drawing, which is basically what the Tower of Babel was. It was a ziggurat, like a pyramid. Here's some engravings in stone that was discovered through archaeology. And archaeological evidence shows the Tower of Babel was most likely located in the ancient city of Eridu, which is one of the cities that Nimrod founded. And it was believed to be where the entrance to the abyss was located. Now, the abyss, let's get back here. The abyss was the location where the fallen angels that had sinned in Genesis 6 were cast. The tower was most likely an attempt to gain the access to the location of the imprisoned pagan gods, the titans of Greek mythology. And yes, they were real. They were the fallen angels, but to the people of that time, they were thought to be gods, and they had a knowledge of these gods. I'm not going to read that again. To notice it said, the Lord scattered them. They left off to build the city. Different languages. Here's some written languages that had developed after the tower incident. Well, apparently I don't have graphics talking about this tower. They have found the remains of a tower in this location of Eridu that apparently it was incomplete, and there's evidence to show that there was a lot of activity around there, basically by digging through their trash, so to speak. But it was a tower that they never finished. It was just abruptly halted, and in the sands of time eventually buried it until recent discoveries rediscovered it. So let's go on to Abraham. So Abraham, so it's interesting that I'm going to scroll ahead for okay, good. I don't know, this is out of place. I'm going to do this. I'm going to change this around a little bit. I don't know why I've got that where I do. I'm going to fix that to right there. So we're going to go back to this Tower of Babel event. So Old Testament cosmic geography. It's just a fancy way of saying how the world, both the supernatural and the natural world, was basically operating at that time, and how the Bible describes it. So Genesis 11 is when God disinherited the nation. So when all these people decided to gather together at Babel against God's design, against his desire, and they decided, and they wanted to follow all these false gods that were in the abyss. And God had tried through Noah's family, possibly, or maybe he was just letting them figure things out. I don't know, but when they came to Babel, and if in the book of Jasher, it's interesting that the book of Jasher describes the Babel event as a plan by Nimrod and the people to actually try to get into heaven itself, where God's throne was, to try to kill God, or at least replace him with their own gods. Well, we know that was never going to happen. So this is when God decided, okay, I've had it with you. I'm going to disinherit you. And I'll go into that in a moment where it talks about that. Genesis 12, so has the call of Abram to create a new nation for himself or his portion. So the Old Testament story is basically Israel versus the nations and Yahweh versus their gods. And if you look in First Samuel and Second Kings, and it talks about how the battle, to try to gain control of even Israel. So Deuteronomy 32 verses 8 through 9, which I'm going to read in a moment, is the basis for Old Testament explanation for the pantheons of the nations. So all these other nations had these pagan gods. Well, this event at Babel explains where these gods came from. It played out in the election and recipient of Revelation, and played out in the wars under Moses and Joshua, and of course Jerusalem and was an Amorite site at one time. The Amorites were a big tribe of giants, no pun intended. So let's look at this Deuteronomy 32. It says, when the Most High God, I'm going to read this in a couple different versions. When the Most High God divided the nations to their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. For the Lord's portion is his people, Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. Now so the only time that God divided the nations was at the Babel incident. Now here in the King James, it says the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. Well, that's kind of odd because there were no children of Israel at that time. Now, if you go to the let's try this again. The English Standard Version, which is directly translated from the Dead Sea Scrolls, it says, when the Most High gave to the nations their inheritance, when he divided mankind, he fixed the borders of the people according to the number of the sons of God. The Lord's portion is his people, Jacob his allotted heritage. So in this one, it says that it was according to the number of the sons of God. So what it sounds like is this is the beginning of the Gentile nations placed under the authority of lesser gods, the sons of gods. These gods became corrupt. So what happened was that when God disinherited these nations, he assigned sons of God, which we had described earlier in an earlier lesson, are divine beings, angels, if you will, even though angels is more of a job description, but everybody thinks of them that way, to manage these different nations with the purpose of helping them to come back to Yahweh God instead of going after the gods that were previously that are in the abyss. Well, through the passage of time, these angels became corrupt and decided they wanted worship instead of directing it towards Yahweh. So you got this constant conflict, and all these pantheons of gods are these fallen angels that are pretending to be gods. Now, eventually, these gods are going to get what's coming to them. Because if you've seen down through history that just the violence and this disgusting behavior that these gods encourage their people to do, kind of like what's happening today. But so in Psalm 82, there's a courtroom scene here where God is taking his place in the divine council. Now, this divine council most likely is the council of the fallen gods, because he's there in the midst and he's going to hold judgment. He condemns him. How long will you judge unjustly, show partiality to the wicked, sons of the Most High, all of you? I said you are gods. Nevertheless, like men, you shall die and fall like any prince. Arise, O God, judge the nation, for you shall inherit judge the earth, you shall inherit all the nations. So here, God's judging these fallen ones for their wickedness. He's the one that said they could be the gods. And but in the end, when this is a prophetic scene here, most likely it could have happened already, but in the end, All these fallen gods, these fallen angels are gonna die. So if you think an angel can't die, they're that's not correct. God can take the life from anybody. In fact, the Bible says that God alone has immortality. So any other immortality is what he grants, even to mankind. So just a quick note, man's soul is not eternal until he's born again. So this divine council was a symbolic ruling body consisting of God as the supreme monarch and various supernatural attendants. Working through innumerable hosts of angelic servants, God creates and rules the physical universe, the physical world, as well as the world of men. The council of Yahweh is responsible for maintaining order in creation, especially earth and Israel. Now, Dr. Michael Heiser had established without a doubt that there is a divine council in heaven, and the council is made up of Yahweh and lesser divine beings, and of course, some of these beings have fallen. The celestial council are made up of angels, which in the Hebrew it's Melachim, and in the Greek it's Angelos. Those are basically messengers, and then you got the archangels, which in the Bible names two, Gabriel and Michael, but in the book of Enoch, first Enoch, and I think in the book of Jasher, it names the other five archangels. Then you have seraphim, which are throne guardians. These are pretty much the only ones, them and the cherubim. These are like guardians. These are the only ones that actually have wings of all the heavenly beings. Then there's other high-level celestial beings. You got the archons. These are the bad guys. The archons, the thrones, the principalities, the powers, and dominions. You got the four living creatures around the throne. And then you got this class of beings called watchers, whose job was to watch over humanity, teach them right from wrong and how to survive and all that. Now, some of the fallen are this is a very confusing to a lot of people subject. Demons are the spirits of the dead Nephilim. So fallen angels and demons are two separate things. So they're known as demons, devils, and evil spirits. And then there's these offices of principality between the good and the bad. You got the offices of principalities, rulers, powers, thrones, authorities, dominions, high places. And the office of the good guys are basically archangel and watcher. Generic title might be morning star, sons of God, host of heaven, serpents. So if you look at the chart at the bottom, the ones that kind of got the pink dot by them, or whatever color that is, those are the good guys. The ones with the green are the bad guys. You notice some of them are both. Serpents are the bad guys. You got types called Rapha, Lilith, Shade, Owl, or Ob. Then you got the Nephilim, which were giants, fellers, mighty men, troglodytes, tyrants. Then the different races of the Nephilim were Rephaim, Emim, Zuzim, Zamzuzim, Anakim, Harim, Shedim, Serim, Gamadim, Captorim, Zophim, all these different giant races. We'll talk more about them as we go. Now, this word that's spelled G-O-D in the English Bible, God, is that word comes, if you look at it in the Hebrew, it's the word Elohim. Now, when it refers to the God of Israel, it's going to have a capital E. And even though Elohim is a plural word, for God, it's referencing his plurality of like his omniscience, his omnipotence, his plurality of attributes. Now, the gods of Yahweh's divine council were also known as Elohim. The gods of the various nations, or the bad Elohim, were known, or the bad fallen angels were also known as Elohim. Demons, or Shadim, are Elohim. Disembodied human dead are Elohim. Angels, anything, any being that lives or dwells in the spirit supernatural realm is an Elohim. It's kind of like we all in America here are Americans. It's the same principle. Now, this Ashtoreth, the goddess Elohim of the Sidonians, we're going to really delve into her later, or him, it, whatever it is. It's one of those confused goddesses, sometimes a god, sometimes a goddess, who most likely is behind the transgender movement and homosexuality and all that kind of stuff, the spirit behind that. How the cosmos is directed is God's loyal council of divine beings. They're God's on top, the Godhead, Yahweh. Sons of God are kind of like the next chain down the pyramid, and then you got the Malachim angels. So I got just different graphics that describe the same thing. And I'm going to end this lesson there. Next one we'll go into Abraham and his call. Thank you for watching. Please hit the subscribe button and share with your friends, your family, anybody you think would be interested in some interesting stuff.